This program is brought to you by Medical City, the Neely School of Business at TCU, and Community Trust Bank. Welcome to Platforms, the life-lifting news program for women. Now, here's your host, Siobhan Palmer.
Hey, welcome back everybody to Platforms, the life-lifting news program for women. I'm continuing my conversation with Kim Olson. She is the executive director of Grace After Fire, a Texas-based nonprofit that helps women veterans and their families. Kim, these are fascinating statistics. In the earlier segment, you were talking about if you don't treat the woman in the family, which typically we are the nucleus of the family, the domino effect can be devastating.
It is, and what we're finding, another kind of scary statistic around that is that our male veteran counterparts from the Vietnam era, when they struggled with their issues, it took them about 10 years to become homeless. For our female vets today, because she has children involved, because she tends to not make as much money as the male counterparts, that number has shrunk, and our female vets are hitting the streets in a homeless status in 18 months. So we have to get ahead of this, because if she hits the street, she's leaving because she's either fleeing in an abusive situation. If she's married to another military member and he is struggling, she's going to take herself out of that. 2, she's normally bringing the children with her. So again, unlike our other vets that we saw, she's going to have a family with her. And that's why some of the homeless shelters don't feed the needs of the female vets, because they're built around
the male model.
Exactly. And so what we're trying to do is, 1, educate the population that this issue is occurring. 2, we're trying to say, yes, we have great structures in place. The VA has done a good job, but it needs to move it in order to be services that the female veteran can take on, because if she has family with her, she's not going to go to a homeless shelter where there's just all men. She's just simply not going to do that.
I think your model's remarkable because it is all internet-based, social networking, and I think what's critical with many success programs is peer-to-peer support. So why don't you address the importance of that?
Well, Grace After Fire sort of sits on a triad, if you will. We have 3 main pillars, if you will, under our organization. The first is we have an online call center that we have, and what it is, it's going to, if you call our 1-800 number, you're going to get another veteran female on the other end of the line. She is not a crisis intervention person. She's not a trained counselor. She is a vet who has training on how to say, okay, what's your issue? Let me find you. So what she is the broker or the conduit to get that veteran the help or some type of lead into what the veteran's issues are. 2, we have an online, as you spoke about, website. We're working it hard. We have providers that sit back in chat rooms, so if you want to talk to someone who can help you, do I have PTSD? Well, let's talk. Are you having nightmares? Yeah, probably you do. And so we have the whole online system, and that's where you go to donate if you want. And number 3 is we have peer-to-peer, which I'm the most proud of, and that's what you're going to hear from next, one of our great peer-to-peer workers out there, Carolyn. And what we do is we sit across the table from you. And what happens with vets is vets bring other vets to the table. I want to be in the room with somebody who's been there and done that. That's how we are. It's great that we have these civilian folks who are well trained, have a lot of education behind them, but I want to look at a guy who's been shot at. I want to look at a guy who's buried a comrade. I want to talk to a woman, who can't sleep at night because she's having nightmares. That's what our vets need, are people that have been there, so they don't, like Stephanie said, I'm not nuts, This does happen, and it happens to a lot of folks. So
yeah. Again, that horrible stigma of anything mentally related in terms of a disability. So what would you say are the 3 to 4 most reoccurring issues that female vets are having coming back from the combat zones?
What the VA stats are showing us, because again, they see it from a medical point of view. 1 is PTSD. Unfortunately, women have a 30% greater chance of getting PTSD than men. It's not because we're sissies. We have babies. Try doing that, guys. But it's just we are chemically made up different, and our ability to handle the stressors is different than it is for our male counterpart. And unfortunately, it takes us a little bit longer. The therapeutic protocol that's used for men getting over PTSD is different than women. Women won't sit in a big room of folks and talk about what happened to her. She wants a one-on-one, intimate, quiet setting where she can share with a fellow female normally. 2, we struggle with depression, and that kind of tends the ebb and flow of the chemical makeup of the body. We find that women will suffer from depression. 3 is hypertension. And then the 4th is normally it manifests itself by having anxiety, or you have nightmares where a lot of people can't sleep. And that's the one common thing about all folks with PTSD is the subconscious will release whatever it is you're fretting about in the middle of the night. So we have nightmares, and that leads to what Stephanie talked about, which is the substance abuse. Now, they're not out there, shooting lines of heroin. What they're doing is they'll drink so they don't feel, and they'll drink so they don't sleep. And a lot with this generation, the younger generation, again, that's bearing the brunt of the war, is they do a lot of pharmaceuticals. They do a lot of over-the-counter mixing of drugs so that they'll sleep at night, they won't feel, they'll forget, or they just want to be away from it all. So that's what we're finding with our vets.
I would imagine, too, that the divorce rate would be staggeringly high if these female vets do not get help on both sides, men and women.
Yeah, military's tough anyway. Military's always had a high divorce rate because it's tough. It is so tough on our families to bear that. You go away and you have a fantasy of what your mate's going to be like when they come back and this great reunion. And that lasts, for most of us that have been there, about 48 hours. And then it's the reality of groceries got to be bought and the trash has to go out and the kids are whining and the house, it's just the realities of living. And so they struggle with the reintegration into the family and into society as a whole. But I think if you can get support around the family. We talk about wraparound support because no one's an island, and we don't want people to be islands. You have peers that will talk to you. You have professional counselors. There is medication to help you with some of the chemical issues that go on. There are things that are working now. There's something called cognitive processing theory, which is really a thing that they're trying to get providers to do, which is one of the things that Grace is doing. It's trying to get providers to do that. So I think it's important that the providers out there know that this isn't a 5-year-long therapy thing. If you can get some of the training that we find is working, these vets are they can recover. I mean, look at Stephanie, look at me, and you'll meet Carolyn later on. You can recover and you'll be very productive in society.
Kim, we've just got a little under 2 minutes, and this has been fascinating. How can our audience, how can people out there, corporations, individuals, help Grace After Fire move your mission forward and help these remarkable women vets?
Well, a couple things I'd like the public out there to know is, one, we have, as you talked about, 1.8 million women who have served. And so it is they're out there and they're out there in force. And so we need recognition around that. That's number one. Two is that we don't want a handout. We just need a hand up. We were courageous in signing up to serve our country in uniform, and we will be courageous through the recovery process of going to war for our nation. So these are courageous women that just need a little bit of help to get back over the edge of coming back from a combat zone. I implore the audience out there to look on our website, as Stephanie talked about, graceafterfire.org. You can donate. You can hire a vet.
It's a great website, by the way,
You can hire a vet. I mean, they are well-trained, well-disciplined, tremendous work ethic, tons of integrity. So that's the second thing they can do. And I think just being aware of that you have vets around you, and it's kind of interesting when vets come home, especially in the rural areas, they sort of just disappear back into the
landscape, and
nobody, you'd be amazed in the grocery store. Didn't you serve? Oh, that's right. What can I do for you? Can I help you out? I mean, so just, all things are grassroots, and that's what Stephanie did. She started this phenomenal grassroots organization that's going to go nationwide and help folks in places like Millsap and Palapino and the small communities out there that
desperately need.
That send their sons and daughters to serve their nation. So give back. If you didn't serve, give back. Help these veterans to get them back on the road and make them productive members of our society.
Beautiful. Kim Olson, it was an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you, Siobhan. Always a pleasure with you.
And again, ladies and gentlemen, to get more information about this remarkable organization, it's graceafterfire.org. This is Siobhan Palmer with Platforms, a life-lifting news program for women. We'll be back in a moment.